In this interview, we hear from Alysia. She's 29 years old, living on Long Island. She's a licensed mental health counselor and has lots of great insights into the career field. Let's get started. Alysia, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm so excited to hear about your career as a licensed mental health counselor. Could you share a little bit about how you got to where you are today?
Of course. So it was a long road. I feel like it's not as easy as, sometimes you think it is. You find out what you want to do and you just go from there. But I actually went to St. John's for my undergrad, and I chose St. John's because I thought that I was going to go to law school. And St. John's has a really good law program. So I was in my senior year of college there, maybe junior, and I took a penal law class to see what it was like, and I absolutely hated it. And I was like, this is not for me. I cannot be a lawyer. This is way too boring. It was a lot of memorization. I just was not about it. And in that same semester, I took a forensic psychology class, and I really, really liked that. I had already taken intro to psych, things like that. But the forensic psych, I really was focused on. So then I decided to totally track the whole law school thing, not happening. Sorry, mom and dad, not going to law school. And then I really focused on forensic psych, and I found the forensic psych master's program through John Jay College, CUNY. So I was like, that's where I'm going. So I applied, and I actually didn't get in my first semester because my GRE score was off by 1 point.
That's brutal.
So yeah, it was really brutal. They required 2.7 something. I got 1 point off. So I had to take the semester off after graduation, and that was a huge blow to me, just because I was so focused. I'm such a planner. And I even took GRE prep classes. I'm just a very nervous test taker.
Mm-hmm.
So I took the semester off. I was just working. I started working at a bank, so that was keeping me focused as a teller. I really liked it. But I was also studying. And then I took the test again, and I got accepted for January semester. So I went into January semester as a forensic psych major. I went in thinking I was going to go for my PhD after master's and then become a psychologist, a practicing psychologist, because at the end of the day, I really wanted to have my own practice. And then the more I took forensic psych classes, I realized I would have to do more research to get into a PhD program. And I did not want to do that. I took research classes, it just wasn't interesting to me. It was a lot of statistics and numbers, and that's again, not my strong suit. So I looked at what other programs were available at John Jay, and they had a forensic mental health counseling program. And I realized when I graduated with that, I would be able to become licensed as a licensed mental health counselor. So it was a program where you would, become a licensed professional, after some clinical hours and internship hours and stuff like that. So I transitioned into that program my second semester at John Jay, and I graduated on time. And then after graduation, I did my clinical hours and took my test and got licensed. So it was a lot of digging and zagging.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like that much when you tell your story, but in the moment, those changes and roadblocks and this and that feel monumental.
100%.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you speak a little bit to the difference on what a psychologist versus a licensed mental health counselor would do on a day-to-day? Because I'm sure a lot of people who are considering any psychological field work are curious what the difference is there besides just a degree.
Yeah, so a licensed mental health counselor is very similar in regards to what they can do and their capabilities to a licensed clinical social worker, which is an LCSW. A psychologist is different in the sense that they go through years of research and get their PhD, and they have many more years of schooling on top of what I have, because I have a master's, they have a doctorate. So a lot of people who want to go psychology focused in regards to more taking out of the research part of it, they go for their PsyD, which is something that I was considering, which is a psychology doctorate, which is different than the PhD. Mm-hmm. But in regards to the main difference, I would think that a lot of people now, when I talk to them, they say that LMHCs, which is what I am, make just as much money in practice as PhDs now, because now LMHCs and LCSWs are much more common. And people, I feel they're more accessible to get their degree than going 3 years and years of schooling to become a PhD. Mm-hmm. So I found that honestly, in regards, if your goal is private practice, you're going to make as much money either way. I mean, PhDs might not all tell you that, but that's kind of what I've heard, where I was like thinking about it and I was just like, you know what, I'm just going to do this route. And it's been working for me. And I like that I still have the option to go back to school if I do want to.
Yeah, that's great. Can you share a little bit about what your work environment is like and what your day-to-day is?
Yeah, so it's definitely not something that I thought I would be doing, but I ended up here and I really, really love it. I work at a nonprofit in Nassau County. It is a mental health organization that has multiple different programs. It's a pretty big one for the county, but I work overseeing two field-based teams. They're called ACT teams. It's assertive community treatment. And we're really like field-based in the sense that we meet our clients at their homes, we meet them in the community, we bring the treatment to them because our clients have such serious mental illnesses and substance abuse disorders that they are not able yet to kind of go to treatment on a daily basis on their own. So our purpose is to bring the treatment to them and get them to a place to be able to go on their own.
Mm-hmm. That's
So
really
I oversee one team that's strictly just ACT clients, and then I oversee a forensic ACT team where all of the clients on that team are forensically involved, meaning they have like a history of incarceration or they're on probation or parole or mandated to court, mental health court and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. When you were studying, is that a specific realm of practice you saw yourself or doing, or is it something you fell into?
So I went to John Jay for forensic mental health counseling. When I got out of John Jay, I did my clinical hours at a private practice that was treating forensically involved clients. So I have that throughout my career, and I kind of fell into it because I went to the agency as a care coordinator just to get my like hours, and did private practice on the side, and a position became available. I became a social worker on the team, which is what they call like mental health counselor / social worker. And then I just kind of moved on up, and I've been with the agency for almost 4 years now. So
yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
What does a typical week for you look like? Is your career a 9 to 5? I don't even know. Should I restructure that question based on your reaction?
It's just like every day is different. So
no, that's great. If you could speak to that.
Every day is different. Now, with COVID, our lives are very different. Pre-COVID, we were all working in what we call like a bullpen setting. So we're all in one room. My supervisor is the assistant director of ACT services. So we would sit next to each other. All our social workers would be in the room, and we'd have like rounds in the morning talking about all the clients. But post-COVID, we've made changes within the agency. I have to say my agency has been like at the front of like taking the safety of our employees to like the ultimate, and I'm very grateful because I feel like that's a really big deal for a mental health agency to take all the precautions that they can because our clients are very high needs. So I'm working completely remotely. I only go into the office as I need, like in regards to paperwork or signing anything like that. But a typical day is 9 to 5. We do work 9 to 5. I do work on call sometimes when we get some issues, like the social workers will bump them up to me. But my day begins with a lot of supervision. I do clinical supervision for each of the social workers on our teams. I do touch bases with them if there are any issues that occur while they're in the field, because our social workers, even though I'm remote, my social workers are going out as needed. We do telehealth. But all of our clients don't have access to phones and webcams and stuff like that, so we do have to meet them in the field. We do rounds, so we meet with our psychiatrist or a nurse practitioner, and we talk about all of the things that happened the previous day and just kind of catch each other up, because it is there's a very big emphasis on team approach. So we each meet with the client, and even though the client might be assigned to a specific person on the team, we're each meeting with that client and keeping each other in the loop. It's a very evidence-based practice, but in the sense that each social worker has a different role. So there's a substance abuse specialist on our team, a vocational specialist, a family specialist, and it's important that that client kind of gets a well-rounded approach so that they have their needs met in each of these different categories and aspects of their life.
Mm-hmm. And how would you recommend to someone who maybe didn't know right off the bat they wanted to do forensic psychology, how they would figure out a realm they would like to specialize in?
I would definitely tell them to start, like, if they're thinking about it in their graduate program, then maybe choosing an internship that was forensic based. I know a lot of the John Jay students that I worked with were like really eager to go to Kirby, which is like a forensic route for internship. So that was one that was really well sought out. But I would just look at like police departments, anything that you feel like if it does spark your interest, your internship is your chance to see like, is this what I want to do? Because once you do it for a couple of days, a couple of weeks, you'll see like, oh, I really like this, or no, this isn't for me. Like,
Mhm.
I'm gonna have to go back to something else and go back to the drawing board. But I feel like people who love it really love it, and they know
Mhm.
when they love it.
That's awesome. Once you're in your graduate program and you're completing your master's, looking ahead towards taking your certification, it is,
Mhm.
what does the certification require?
So the LMHC certification requires you to take 3,000 clinical hours. Half of them are indirect, meaning that you're doing treatment plans, case notes, things like that, comprehensive assessments. And then 1,500 of them are direct, meaning that that's the time where you're providing and practicing your clinical skills. And in that time span, I believe it's typically like a year and a half that takes. I think it took me about 2 years. Um, you are doing your licensing exam. So you're studying, you are able to take it like I think more than once, thankfully. I only have to take it once. But it is really, really difficult. Like I do supervise a couple of my social workers who are doing it. Um, so within that time span, you take the exam, and once you pass the exam and you complete your clinical hours, you submit your application to the state. And then when they get back to you, you're a licensed mental health counselor.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
A nice, easy couple 3,000 hours. No big deal.
No biggie.
um, from someone who isn't as familiar with your field, what is something that might surprise them about your job?
I think in the aspect of the field that I'm in, where I'm working with clients who are really like have severe mental illness, severe dual diagnoses, they're also dealing with substance abuse, is that the rewarding portion of the job is is really much greater than you think it would be. I think that working with this population, people see like, when is it going to get better for them? Like, when are they going to be able to like move past this point and kind of see their illness is more than that, is more something that they can like progress towards and not see it as something as a barrier to what they want to achieve. And I feel like when people see this field, they're like, how is that rewarding? Like, you're doing the same thing every day. But like there's so much more to it. It is rewarding, and there are points where you have sessions with clients, and they get to a point that you never think they would get to, and that happens every day. And as a clinical supervisor, I'm not having sessions with clients every day because I'm more on the admin aspect of it. But being able to have clinical supervision and hear my staff be able to get to that point as a young professional, it's really, really rewarding. So there's always light at the end of the tunnel with our clients.
And how long do you have a patient on your radar for? Is it, I feel like there's no end point per se,
Yeah.
but you tell me.
No, I mean, honestly, it really depends on the client and where the client is at with um, their journey. I think we have a lot of clients who come to us who are mandated to treatment because, the county found them to be like a danger to themselves or others, and they weren't compliant with medication. And, we'll do therapy with them and intense treatment, and they'll get to that point in a year and a half and say, you know what, I'm ready to go to an outpatient clinic. I'm going to attend my appointments. I've been compliant with my meds. And then they're off our team and they go on to do great things. But then we have clients who we've had for 10 years who just are just severely mentally ill and really need the treatment and aren't at a place where they have that insight to attend their own appointments. So it really is it's a spectrum. Like, there's so many different clients that we've had so much success with, and then there's clients that we're still doing the same thing that we've been doing. And I think that's where it gets a little tricky, where like you have to kind of take a set of fresh eyes and see, what can I do different for this client.
Mhm. So it sounds like this role requires quite a bit of resilience. Are there any qualities in a person that you think lend well for this career?
Yeah, I think it's definitely important to know your limit when you're in this field. We really encourage our staff to practice self care, even though there's a pandemic going on. And even if you take vacation days, you can't actually go on a vacation. We've been
Welcome to my
encouraging
tropical paradise.
we've been encouraging all of our staff to just take the days and have a staycation, spend time with your family, take time over the holidays, just because there's so many things going on this year. Like our clients still need us, even though there is a pandemic, and we're struggling with our own mental health and anxieties about our health and our parents' health and our kids and everything. So we really just encourage them to take time for themselves. And I think that's so important when you're in this field, because you just, you have really draining days. And I know that's in every career, but you're not only like dealing with people's mental health, you're dealing with your own. Be mindful of that and really like practice self-care. Like this week honestly was really hard. Like I had a client pass away this week, and it really does help that my husband like knows what I do and understands what I do, and he's been with me for the journey, because he like would check in on me and be like, are you okay? Like, what did you do for yourself today? And I feel like having people in your life like that just makes this job a lot easier, because they encourage you to like, okay, what are you doing? Like, especially working remote, you're at the computer for like, are you getting up? Like, are you eating lunch? Like, so I just practicing self-care is a really, really big deal, and being mindful of that.
Do you find that there are any common misconceptions about your field?
Yeah, I think that a lot of people, there's like two very different routes to go in mental health. I feel like some of them are very lucrative, like private practice is a very lucrative field to be in, because you're able to kind of like be your own boss and make your own hours and choose your own clients. And I feel like that is the goal with a lot of practitioners like who are in mental health. And nonprofit is not always the most lucrative fields, because you're working in an agency that is non-for-profit. So, you're the way that nonprofit works is you're getting money that is going into your agency, billing for services that are provided, that's going into your agency, that at the end of the day, your agency is distributing. They're not building any profit, which means that you're not getting the same raises that you would at like an advertising agency or, a different field. So I feel like when you're in non-for-profit, you really have to care about what you're doing. And it's not really salary based. It's more of like you're investing in yourself to kind of be a better therapist. At the end of the day, if you really love the job, you're going to do whatever calls to you. So, private practice is something that a lot of people do. And I think it's definitely a goal of mine and something I've done in the past and I really enjoyed. But for right now, I really, really love what I do. And I love the team that I work with. So
that's great. Over the next few years, do you have any predictions about how you see the mental health field changing? I mean, I personally have just noticed such an uptick in conversation about it on social media and in the news. So do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I definitely think that our generation is more comfortable going to therapy, which is something that I've seen like boom over the pandemic. Like a lot of my coworkers are saying that they are getting a lot of new referrals, especially because now therapy is more accessible. You don't have to leave your home in order to see a therapist. Not that you did before, but it's more common, So I definitely see people being more comfortable speaking about it, attending therapy, telling their friends that they're going to therapy. I just feel like it's a more common thing, which is normalizing it. Like it's normal to go to therapy. It's normal to have to speak to somebody that's not your friend or your husband or your spouse about what's going on in your life. So I'm really excited about where it's going. I think that it's definitely a good field to be in right now.
Do you have any final advice or words of wisdom for anyone who's looking to become a licensed mental health counselor?
So my advice would be to definitely don't limit yourself and research what you want to do and how can you get there and what's the best way to get there. There's so many different aspects of the field. You could work with law enforcement, you could work in schools, you could work with seriously mentally ill clients in the field, dual diagnosis. If your substance abuse is what you want to do, there's definitely so many different paths that you can take in this field. So my sole advice would be not to limit to yourself and really take advantage of any opportunity to network or intern or shadow somebody. Anything that you feel like would benefit you in the long run, definitely do it.
Thank you so much for your time. I think we covered some really great topics, and I look forward to speaking to you soon.
Bye. Thank you.